Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of Comics and Beyond. We've been away for a while, but we're back now. I'm Cutter, and I'm joined by a very, very special guest this week, the one, the only professional wrestler and boys expert, the boys, not boys in general, but the boys expert, Katey Harvey. How you doing, Katey?
I'm good, but look, I don't think I'm an expert on either of those subjects. So,
No, well, we're here today to kind of we're going to chat about the show. We're going to try and not give away too many spoilers, if we can help it. But be warned, there may be spoilers, if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Because speaking for myself, I speak before I think. So yeah, that may happen. So, but yeah. So Katey, the boys, how did you kind of come across it? How'd you get in? Was it just like browsing and you happened across the show, or did you hear about it first?
it was actually heavily recommended to me by Rick Nash, who I do low blows with, um,
Yes.
because he knows I'm a massive Marvel fan. Like, I love my superheroes. Um, so he was kind of like, I think you'll like this take on it. It's interesting. And I was kind of approaching not Marvel burnout, but
Yeah.
like when it was coming towards the end there, towards the end of like in Infinity War
With
and like Endgame.
Endgame and all that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're kind of thinking like, oh, am I done with superheroes for a bit? Because this is a lot. Like this is 10 years.
Yeah, and that
um,
was for an ending. That was a big old ending. Like
yeah,
that takes time to absorb. You know.
yeah. I'm a midnight show kind of person. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and
Hell yeah.
I was just kind of like, it's been a lot. And he's like, no, I think you'll like this. It's a completely different take. And like, me and him would talk a lot about like kind of social issues and stuff and like
Hmm.
interesting social media bits. And he was like, I think you'll really vibe with this. Like, I think you'll really be into like how they're presenting this. And
Yeah.
then myself and Phil watched one episode, and I was like, I was like, this is amazing.
And you know, it was kind of the same for me. I kind of went in totally blind, and I'm really glad I did, because um, much like that, you're kind of like, oh, it's capitalizing on superheroes being the cool thing right now or something. But then you watch it and you're like, whoa, this is this is not how they've been presented to me before.
It's
And
actually really refreshing to watch it in tandem
mm,
with the Marvel films, I think, and especially because my favorite superhero is Captain America, who is like purest of the pure. Like, I love my super white meat babyface
yeah,
superheroes. Don't give me any of your anti-hero shit. I'm not into it. Like, give me just absolutely like stand up for the
eat your
people.
vitamins, say your prayers, superhero.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like that's what I'm into. So like the boys was like, oh my god, everything I know is a lie, and who like Homelander. I'm sure we'll get into it, but Homelander, one of the
Oh
great
my
characters
god.
of all
And
time.
we're gonna, what I was thinking we might do is we might go through kind of each character and what we thought
Mm.
of them, as well. I think that could be fun. But Homelander, we'll have a lot to say on Homelander when we get to it. But just in case anybody has not chanced upon this yet, the boys, it's on it's Amazon Prime. Sorry, it's
Mm.
Prime Video, and I was going to say Netflix. I have too many fucking subscriptions now at this stage, but it's Prime. It's run about 2 seasons. There's a third season confirmed, which we will get into a little bit later on as well. But 2 seasons now. It's about kind of it's a team of superheroes called the Seven, and it's their battle against the boys, and it's kind of the conflict between them. I mean, I'm not really doing it justice, but I'm trying to kind of not give too much away from it. Trust me, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's not what you think it is, and it's definitely not suitable for kids or anything like that. If you think it's Jesus, no, just don't. There's gore, blood, violence, some really really touchy subjects touched on in there. Um, but yeah, we'll get into it. Actually, Katey, I'm sure you know that. Well, you may or may not, but um, it's based on a comic book series that it's a DC comic series originally under their Wildstorm imprint, and it moved then to Dynamite Entertainment. Um, in the comics, there's a few changes, not many, but there's a few changes between the comics and the show. So, um, for instance, they toned it way down for TV. Which I know is kind of shocking because it's still pretty bad. But they toned a lot of the sex, drugs, and violence down as they had to.
Mm.
And so the comic book series is a whole other fucking mind blowing thing, which I do suggest checking out at some point as well. An interesting little fact about it: the character of Huey in the comics is um, in the likeness of and based on Simon Pegg,
Mm.
who plays Huey's dad in the show. So
Mm.
that's a nice little thing. But yeah, it's a fantastic comic book series. It's still running. It's just it's the TV show and then it's dialed up to 11. It's kind of crazy. Another one of the little changes in it is, for instance, Translucent is a character that only exists in the TV show. So
Oh,
in the
really? I didn't
yeah,
know
yeah, they did him specifically for it because the character in the comic books is a character called Jack from Jupiter, who
that. Okay.
he would be in Translucent's place, and he's kind of an alien. He's a take on Martian Manhunter from the Justice League,
Mm.
and essentially when they were doing the boys, they wanted to make it more grounded in reality. So
Mm.
they thought having kind of an alien thing might be a bit too
That would be too much.
yeah,
Yeah.
a bit too much. So they replaced him with Translucent, and kind of did that. Now, as I said, folks, there will be spoilers. I know there'll be spoilers, so just fucking watch out. All right. So I was thinking we might as well go through some of the characters and have kind of a chat about them. And I'm going to start with Carl Urban playing Billy Butcher, who is the leader of the boys. What are your thoughts on Billy Butcher and kind of from, say, if you can remember back to kind of almost when you saw him and how he evolved in your eyes?
Mm.
What are your
Like
thoughts on him?
he's definitely like a fan favorite, isn't he? Like he's one
Mm.
of my favorites in the TV show. Like I'm a big Carl Urban fan anyway. He pops up in everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you spend the first 3 episodes going like, oh, he was actually in because like I'm a devil for that. One of my favorite things is figuring out what actors are from. It's
oh,
like it's like
without going onto the phone.
oh no, I will try. And then it's like, you know, the It's Always Sunny meme of Charlie like linking everything up. Like that's what I'm like watching a TV show. It must drive Phil mad because I need to know. I need to know. Like he had one line at King and Queens 12 years ago.
Oh
Like
Jesus, that's where I know him from.
so imagine when Carl Urban comes on, because I'm also a tidbit person as well. If
Right,
I watch something, if I consume something, I need to find out every tidbit about it. And
right.
just like I haven't read the comics, but
Hmm.
I've read articles about what's different from the comics. You know what I
Oh,
mean? And
brilliant,
yeah,
brilliant.
so I have read some stuff on what's different. I know like some
Mhm.
characters are gender swapped and things like that.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but I'm a big trivia person, so Carl Urban is just a minefield for this trivia.
Because he's in everything. I mean, like Jesus, what were some of the big stuff? He was in Dread, wasn't he? Yeah, he was in
Yeah,
Dread.
he's in Thor.
Thor, yeah, of course. Like
Lord of the Rings, I think.
he is Lord of the Rings. He kind of pops up everywhere.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
every time I see him, I just expect him. Oh, you can't. I just expect like, he just I don't know why I'm a huge fan, and the Billy the Butcher character I really liked. He hasn't really, in my eyes, he kind of hasn't changed much. He
No,
has his direction. He knows what he wants, and he's kind of doing what it takes to get there. You know, he has one
yeah,
goal, and that's it.
yeah. Like I'm not the biggest fan of anti-heroes, but like he's like an admitted bastard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's never tried to be anything but that.
yeah. He's been
He's just
straight up
like
since the get go. Yeah,
yeah. So I appreciate that, and I like that about the character. Like I like that you can see like he will just do certain things to get things done, and I
yeah.
appreciate that about the character. Um, because I think season 2 he wasn't in the first episode at all. It was barely in it, and I felt like you could actually feel his lack of presence in that episode.
I
Because
agree.
I think they released the first 2 or 3 together, didn't they?
That's right. There
Um,
was now. Yeah, I'm sure somebody will let me know I'm wrong, but I think you're right. I can't quite remember completely, but I think
yeah,
it was like two or three together. I think they did a little burst so you could kind of binge watch
yeah,
the new
yeah.
season.
Well, see, my theory is they did that because they knew the first episode wasn't engaging without him. Because I literally sat there being like, I wonder where Butcher is. Like, what's Butcher doing? Like, is Butcher thinking about the boys? Like,
I wonder what he's thinking of right now.
so like my theory is that they did that because I don't think the opening of season 2 was the strongest.
That's a very interesting take, and I think you might be right. I mean, I could see it. I could definitely see it. You know, he was like, I completely agree with you. Like, he was missing. You know, he was missing. It's not one of those cases where a character just disappears and you just kind of forget about it. It was kind of a case of, I know everything's happening on screen, but I wonder what's happening with this guy. I wonder why I'm not seeing him.
And also, he was the cliffhanger of season 1.
Yes.
So it's very much like, and The Walking Dead do it all the time, which drives me crazy. I don't know if you watch The Walking
Dead.
Don't get
me fucking started on.
They'll leave someone on a cliffhanger and then be like, you'll spend the next episode with like one random side character with no reference to the cliffhanger, and you're like, because luckily I binge watched The Walking Dead. I only watched it in January. You know what I mean? I watched all like 10 seasons.
Did you make it? Oh my God, you made it all the way.
Yeah. Oh, no, I got obsessed along the way. But
because you see, I made it up halfway and then I started going, this has gone to the dogs.
If I was watching it weekly, that might have happened because Phil watched it weekly and that's what happened to him. And then he picked it up when I started rewatching. So I think binge watching helps in that, because I was like, Glenn was my favorite character in that. So this is a complete sidebar. And
that's what we do best here. Don't worry about it.
Glenn was my favorite character from The Walking Dead. And when they had that cliffhanger with him on the dumpster.
Yes, Jesus.
And then didn't talk about him for 3 episodes. I was like, that would have killed me if I was watching week to week. But
I remember it happening, and you are like, oh, I guess he's just dead then. That's kind of shitty. He's such a big character, and he's what the fuck. Yeah. And then when it's revealed that the whole thing happens and how he got out, you feel a bit cheated. You're kind of like, are you serious? Like, what the fuck are you doing to me?
Yeah, so I kind of felt like Butcher was like that in The Boys for that first episode. I'm like I don't really care about the politics that's going on. I want to know what's going on with that storyline. Like, just let me reference it a little bit. So yeah, he's definitely just one of the bigger characters that, like,
undeniably, I think it's interesting to see where he's going, because as I said, it's not like there's a huge arc with him. He said from the get-go he has one goal. And that's it. That, without giving too much away, it hasn't really changed that much in what I see. You know, it kind of, the circumstances change, but it's still his goal is to get and reunite with his family and stuff, and he'll do what it takes to get there, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. I did find that really interesting in season 2 when he eventually, spoilers, reunites basically.
I've warned twice now at this stage. If they're still watching, it's their fault.
I can't talk about this without spoilers, but obviously with the child, I thought that was such an interesting storyline, and I thought it was a very real reaction to like what he was being asked to do.
Yeah.
And
100%, it was a huge thing. Like, I remember, like, even the end of season 1, finding out, holy shit, she's alive. Like, my wife is alive, and not only that, there's a kid there. And then how he kind of has to deal with it. He's still got what he wanted. He gets reunited, and it shows, like, I suppose, well, he gets reunited temporarily, but whatever. But it still shows that all he wants is his family. He just wants his family back. That's all he wants, whatever the circumstances may be. And that twist with the kid and that whole thing, featuring Homelander, etc., it put a nice little kind of sting in the tail that kept the story going for Butcher as well, and kind of how he deal with it, etc. Going forward. Moving on though from Butcher onto arguably, it's hard to say there's a main character, but he is definitely one of them. Huey. Huey, who is he's a civilian member, and when I say civilian, so Butcher's like former SAS, he's kind of a bit of a badass, and kind of the rest of the boys all have backgrounds in that. Huey's just a guy. He's a civilian, and he joins the boys after his girlfriend Robin is killed by A-Train, which I'm just going to mention straight off the bat. I remember the first episode going, right, this happens within the first, I think, 2 minutes of the first episode. And you're watching going, oh, it's like a little normal romance thing. And then that happens and he's left holding her hands. And I remember just going, oh my fucking God, what am I watching? What the fuck just happened?
My reaction was different. My reaction was sold. I'm in.
So,
I was like, I get the show. I know what it's about, and I'm into it.
So Huey, thoughts on kind of him starting out and where he went.
I feel like this is a controversial one. I like Huey, but my friends who I've talked to about the boys don't like him.
Really?
Yeah. I like him though, but again, as I said, I like that Captain America stand up for the people.
Yeah.
So he kind of represents that a little bit because he gets into this for such pure reasons. He just wants
Yeah.
vengeance for his girlfriend.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting about Huey is he does let the lines blur a little bit. Like he will lie if he needs to.
Yeah.
He will bend the rules, and he does get involved in that world,
And you know the interesting thing, when he does though, he tends to it's like he almost feels guilty about doing it
yeah,
afterwards.
I think he's very real reactions to how a civilian would be if they got pulled into it. I think he's
Yeah,
very relatable in that way.
I agree.
So I do actually like him, and I I love about the boys that they give people such specific character traits, and I love that one of his is just like this love of music and Billy Joel. Like again, I think that's very relatable to a
Yeah.
person because we all have those little quirks.
Oh, 100%. And I think, he's kind of there as a foil as well. He can be used as a little bit of comic relief and stuff
Mm.
when things get a little bit heavy. He's that kind of character that can kind of ease the tension a touch just by being him, and kind of because he's not used to all this, he kind of fumbles his way through certain things, trying to help as much as he can. And then of course there's the whole kind of romance with Starlight, who is a member of the Seven, which that kind of brings a whole other fucking contradiction into the show as well. Well, not a contradiction, but a point of contention into the show, where a member of the Seven is in kind of a, well, not really a relationship, but they have feelings for a member of the
Yeah,
boys, and
and
that
it's
kind of leads it.
interesting. His motivation for getting into it is to avenge his girlfriend,
Hmm.
and he almost immediately jumps straight into a relationship with, you know what I mean? It's like so interesting, but
Yeah.
like you can tell he struggles with that as well,
Mm.
which is
Yeah, I think he's our little connection to it. Everybody else is so, whether they're a superhero or whether they're the kind of the ex-military guys or whatever, they're kind of beyond what we can really relate to. But Huey, as you said, yeah, he's what we think somebody might act if they were dragged into that. For good reasons. As I said, again, much like Butcher, his reasons don't change that much. I think vengeance for Robin is always in his kind of sightline, but there does come other stuff like with Starlight and stuff like that. I think he does kind of expand a little bit, and he does end up kind of giving a shit about everything in the end. And I think he sees Vought and the Seven kind of just as a thing that has to be taken down, and he may be in a position to help that. I don't know. Now on to a fun one, Homelander. Homelander, I mean, he's kind of a mix. He's kind of Superman, pretty much. Superman with a reputation of Captain America. So he's hugely powerful. He has all of like Superman's powers that you can think of, but he's also like, he's a narcissist. He's sadistic. He doesn't really give a shit about anybody, really. And he's just, as a character, my fucking God. What are your thoughts on him?
I remember watching the airplane episode in season 1,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember
Oh,
tweeting.
Jesus.
I remember tweeting, I never thought I'd hate anyone on TV as much as Jeffrey until this prick showed up. I like, again, like I don't like anti-heroes, but I have a deep appreciation for just through and through villains. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And he is one of the best characters in any TV or movie that I've ever seen. He
100%.
disgusts me on every single level. I mean, who's able to look at a glass of milk for weeks after the boys?
Oh,
You know
don't,
what
no, no, no. I had blocked that out. Oh God. And
I mean? Like,
now you've brought a scene to mind in season 2 where he like finds an old thing of milk and he like,
yeah,
oh no, no, no.
it's just everything about him is creepy. It's
Yeah.
disgusting. Like, he should not be elevated to the position he's in because he is just thoroughly a bad person. But
And that airplane scene hit it home. I thought that scene
yeah,
was done so well.
oh, yeah,
Um,
that gave me shivers. That airplane scene did.
yeah.
Like,
Where you know he could have, if he didn't want to save anybody, he could have saved like the child and the mother, but nope, just
but that would leave someone alive to tell the tale.
exactly.
It
And
turns his reputation. It's better to go down like as someone who just tried their best,
yeah,
rather than someone who partially succeeded and then left a loose end.
and it's just like little things. I remember like there's constant shocks with him, like out of the blue. I remember in season 2 when they were I can't remember her name. She kind of took over as the kind of administration for the Seven.
Mm.
She'd like found the new guy who was blind,
Mm.
and he was like doing the
Oh
training
yeah.
and stuff for him, and Homelander just boom slaps him, and the guy just like he starts pumping blood out of his ears. He goes, "Now what is he? He's deaf, useless." And it's like, Jesus, dude. And the guy 2 seconds before had just been up saying like how much he loved him and
Yeah.
respected him and all that. It's like, oh my fucking God.
It's just he's so efficient at being a dickhead. You know what I mean? Like,
And
it's the only
there
way
was a moment, and I don't know if you were the same in season 2 as well, where I thought, were we gonna start liking the guy when, and we will touch on her later, Stormfront comes in and you see, and there's kind of a moment where it's like, is he going to, is he going to become a good guy, or is he going to?
Yeah, and I noticed it when they went back to his childhood home and he had a freak out over something in the childhood home segment. It was a fake childhood home segment, it turned
Yes.
out, because they touched on the fact that he's obviously had a really disturbing upbringing. And I hope it is something they delve into in season 3
Mm.
to give us that slight other side of him, because you want to know what created such a monster,
Yeah.
because you kind of want to know is there hope for the little boy, you know?
Yes, that's the thing.
Interesting.
Like,
But there was a lot of tenderness between them as well, which I picked up on in season 2, which I liked. I think he
with
genuinely
Homelander
did.
and the
Yeah,
son.
and the boy. Yeah, I do think there is something there where he struggles with wanting to like mold him in his image, but also kind of give him something that he didn't have growing up. But there was one bit where he's trying to get the child to fly, and he
Oh,
pushes
yeah, I knew you were going to say it. I was like, whoop.
that was traumatic for me, because I watched that while recovering from a broken
Oh
arm.
no, Katie, no.
And I was just like, oh God.
Of all the people at all the times to watch that scene, Katey Harvey, what
I
the
know.
fuck?
I know. It was very funny. But yeah, that's I just love Homelander. I think he's fantastic, and I hope they give us a little bit of backstory going into it. But I do genuinely think he's one of the best characters across any TV show or movie I've ever seen.
I find it hard to disagree. I mean, he's such an out and out bastard, and
Mm.
he's uh, very few, if any, redeeming qualities about him. And it's kind of, he's almost the crux of the show in that he's Superman. He's this, everything good about everything. He's in the public eye. He's the
Mm.
ultimate superhero. He's fantastic. He's great and all that. And then behind the scenes, he's just Satan.
Mm.
So it's like, it's kind of, it's a weird crux, and it's part of what hooked me in as well, was his whole thing. And of course, then moving on to Starlight, who another huge cast member, who, I mean, arguably the first part of the first season at least was very heavily focused on her,
Mm.
and how she kind of went from being Annie to being Starlight, and joining the Seven and all that. She seems to be like the one. You could argue that Queen Maeve is kind of sullied and kind of she's jaded from what's been she's seen and all that. But Starlight seems to, there's still hope for her. She seems sincere in wanting to help people and be good, you know.
Mm.
But I think she's definitely turned into more of a badass. What do you think?
Oh yeah, like I find her story so interesting in like the broader scope of the world, because like I think The Boys draws heavily on media in general. You know, like the movie industry, and especially when we had stuff like the Me Too movement going on, and you can kind of see like, you know, the manipulation a lot of people would have went through. And I think they illustrate that really well with Starlight, where she thought she was joining a superhero faction. You know what I mean? Like she thought she was joining that to make a difference in the world, but really she was just a cog in their publicity machine. And that's actually what was important. And if some people got saved along the way, hey, that's a bonus. But when you can see the small manipulations from the beginning, obviously the thing what happened to Deep is a massive manipulation, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But even aside from that,
The
things like
costume and stuff
changing
like
her
that.
gear, yeah,
Yeah.
changed her costume, changing the way she's presented, you know, not wanting her to be seen in her civilian clothes, not wanting her to, like, if she sees an attack on the street, like, don't help because you're not in your gear, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just it's her story is like a little bit heartbreaking in that way, because you're like, oh shit, like this is inspired by things probably that people actually went through in the media industry and in many other
Oh, I mean,
industries.
I could definitely see that happening. I mean, even
Mm,
down to, as you touched on, even with the, oh, you know, you're not showing enough skin. You know, here,
yeah,
wear this skimpier outfit. Or
yeah, yeah.
you know, if you want to thrive in this place, you're going to do this for me. You know, I mean,
Mm.
it's I think it's a relatable thing in a lot of ways. I know she's a superhero and whatnot, but the issue she faces is definitely relatable, I think.
So I think that's what makes her even more of a badass in season two, when she's kind of like, okay, you know what? I'm going to work within the system to take it down.
Yeah.
I just think that's kind of like really inspiring and really empowering. And it's, you know, she just, because I said like Queen Maeve has become jaded. She's just been like, well, look, this is the way it is. I can't change it. But what I love is that Starlight, even though I don't really think they're friends, she like reawakens something in Queen Maeve,
Yes.
when she kind of stands up for herself a bit more, and she's like obviously dealing with stuff with her relationship and all that, and like again she's been used as a pawn because she's in a same-sex relationship, and they're like, we can spin this, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, we can
Yeah.
spin this for the publicity machine. And I like that positive influence on like the young, ambitious, sort of like, you know, optimistic Starlight. And I really love that storyline. And like there's a scene in season two where it's like all the women fighting, and I know as it's done, and it's like a tongue-in-cheek reference to Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, I get the dig, but I also think it's really cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm watching it in two ways. Because the first time Marvel did it, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really organic, and like I could imagine a 10-year-old girl in the cinema
Oh,
watching that,
hell yeah.
having
Hell
a
yeah.
nice time. Because I watched it as a 30-year-old in the cinema and was like, oh my god, I needed to see this.
Oh, I watched it as a man and I was like, that's fucking badass. You know.
Like, but then when they did it a second time in Endgame, and it felt very forced, and it felt very like tick box feminism, which is
Yes.
which is what was happening in The Boys. They were saying this is tick box feminism. Like they're literally running a female empowerment campaign within The Boys.
Yeah. We're going.
And
This is why we're going to do this. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but that's why it's so clever and so subversive,
Yeah.
because when they do actually team up, it's away from the cameras, and it's like, okay, well we've put this campaign in here as like the tongue-in-cheek nod to everything going on, but then look, when they do actually team up in real life, it's cool and it makes a difference. And I love that juxtaposition that they managed. Now maybe I'm reading way too much into it because
No, I
I'm
think you're
really
right,
into it.
because I think The Boys thrives on being the kind of, oh, it's the real life version of the Marvel stuff we see, you know, what goes on really behind the scenes. So it makes sense to me that they would take little digs at like
Mm.
how they're, you know, how it's presented on the screen as to how it really is, you know. Um moving on, we're going to touch on another sleazeball, the Deep. Um,
Oh yeah.
and it's not redemption. I don't know what it is in season 2. It's kind of falling into a cult and just going further off the deep end. Hey, like, but starting off, I mean, yeah, Jesus, what a start for a character to get across. You're a scumbag. I kind of felt. I remember watching it with my wife, and I remember specifically going that I kind of felt bad for Chase Crawford, who he plays the Deep,
Mm.
because I was like, oh, that's just a shitty role to have. like like that you're such a sleazeball, dude. And but that's a testament to his acting, that
Mm.
it was believable that he was that sleazy, etc. He also in season 2 provides some of the funniest moments
Mm.
via Patton Oswalt as well. It is playing his gills. If you haven't seen The Boys, this is going to sound really fucked up, right? But trust us, you just need to see it. But the Deep and his evolution, I suppose. What do you think of it?
Like it's I can't call the Deep my favorite character because he's Ron, that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I find his story probably the most interesting out of the main storyline, outside of the main storyline, because he is a scumbag
yeah,
and he's disgusting, but we rarely see people like that get their comeuppance. You know what I mean? We rarely see them face consequences like that. We never see it played out like that. And
yeah,
while you're not happy with the consequences, because there's no excuse for assault, no matter, I think, who, like look, it's not cool in any situation, but you are just kind of like, I hope you're learning your lesson. Here's your
yeah.
consequence for the way you've lived your life and the choices you've made. And I don't want to say satisfying, but it's nice to see it play out. You know what I mean? I think it's a brave choice to play it out like that.
Yeah, I think rather than saying, I agree in that, like, the easy route would have been taken, oh, he gets killed or he gets something like
Yeah,
that. But rather we get to see like real life consequences of,
yeah.
he's not going to prison or anything for what he did. No, he's getting kind of shunned away.
It's probably
And
worse than prison for someone like him.
exactly. Well, you can see the toll it takes on him mentally.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
completely goes off. Like he completely like goes into a depressive state, and kind of starts reflecting on everything throughout his life and all that stuff.
Mm.
And throughout it, he does try to apologize for what he did to Starlight, etc. I mean, there's no apology that can ever be
Yeah,
big enough for that. But um, to your point, it is kind of nice to see a a consequence, like a
yeah,
real life consequence. That's not just instant gratification. It's
yeah,
just, this is what's happening,
yeah.
you know. And where do you? I mean, the scenes with the gills. What did you think of them? With Patton
Oh, yeah.
Oswalt voicing the gills and
They're
singing to him.
so uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
again, because I'm a trivia nerd, I was also watching another show at the same time called AP Bio. I don't know if you've seen it. It stars
No.
Glenn Howard from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's
Oh.
his sitcom, where he plays a biology teacher and Patton Oswalt plays the principal. And it's just a very like light-hearted, sitcom.
Okay.
And then so I had literally like back to back gone from watching that to watching these Voice the Girls, being like, is that is that the principal we just
And they start singing to each other, and it's so weird. And it's like,
yeah.
what is
But again,
happening?
it just fully illustrates like where his mental state is at, and like how much his superhero career was his entire identity. He was consumed by it. And then when his Seven identity was taken away, it's like, what's left?
Yeah,
You know?
that's it. Yeah.
And that's another fascinating thing about Seven is they get so absorbed by this lifestyle and by the because A Train struggles with it as well, when his stuff is taken away. And then you
Yes.
see how easy it is for actual cults and stuff to pick up people like that. It's just so full of like real life examples almost, where you can see how
100%.
people get to certain stages. Um, but yeah, the Gills was tough to watch now. It definitely took me, even in a show like that, it took me by surprise.
Yeah. um, I'm not going to, obviously, I'm not going to go through every single character in the whole show, but we just have a couple of more main ones that we will touch on. And one you've just mentioned is A Train,
Mm,
who um I think it's safe to say he plays a much bigger part in season one than he does in season two. It's very largely focused on him in season one because he is responsible for killing Robin, who
mm,
is Huey's fiance, and his kind of drug addiction and downfall. But not really downfall. It's still kind of
yeah,
um, uh, complicated in that way. But his ongoing sussing out of Starlight and stuff like that. He's like the only one that actually knows what Starlight is up to.
yeah,
But they're kind of playing off each other where one can't turn the other in.
yeah.
And it's a really interesting dynamic. How do you think he's coming along?
Yeah, like he's not my favorite or someone I find the most interesting. I feel like he's run out of a lot of steam in season two. So I kind of hope they either like give him something big in season three, or I don't know. Um, but he is the kicking off point for everything,
Yeah,
so you can't really count him out.
that's it
Um,
as well. Yeah, it's focused on him hugely.
yeah, yeah. No, like I do think parts of the story are very sad with Popclaw and stuff. And again, it's kind of like the Deep, where it's like he feels so protected by that identity that he feels like he can do anything, which again we can see with celebrities and stuff all the time. So it's another interesting like real life parallel to kind of pull from. And then when that's taken away, and they're finding someone to take his place, they're finding someone who's faster, and they're making
Yeah,
like a show trial almost out of it. It's Yeah, it's interesting just that like even though they know they're in the machine, they still get caught by surprise when the machine drops them, which is really interesting to watch.
yeah. Speaking of interesting, there's a character here who um is mute the whole time. The female, aka Kimiko, who is completely mute, um, or at least starts off that way. And no, she is mute and uses sign language and whatever to communicate with her brother, etc. in season two. But when she's first introduced, um, she's clearly damaged
Mm,
and very scarred by something that's happened. But she does kind of come out more in season two with her brother, etc. And that leads on to confrontation with Stormfront, etc. From what happens there. And I think it's, for me at least, it was a character that started off very much as kind of almost a subplot to one that I actually was like, oh, you poor fucker, like coming into season two.
mm.
Especially with what happened with her brother and stuff, you start feeling a bit more for her and stuff, and getting a little bit more insight into what happened. What are your thoughts on Kimiko?
Like this might surprise you, but her and Frenchie are my favorite characters.
Really,
Yeah, yeah,
really,
yeah.
that
I
does surprise me actually.
I adore their relationship. And I think like
Well, yeah,
to
we
bring
could. Do you know what? We'll bundle Frenchie in here too, because he's kind of a more minor character, so we may not have
yeah,
touched on him. So we can bundle him in here too.
I weirdly gravitate towards minor characters watching things. I don't know why. I just tend to. And for me, she's very much like the Winter Soldier of this season. Um,
That's yeah. I hadn't even thought. That's a good comparison.
like I was just thinking about it, and like because Bucky is my all-time favorite Marvel character,
Hmm.
and I just I really like that parallel of like you were created as a weapon. You know what I mean? Against your
Yes.
will. Now you've got your free will back. How are you going to use it? I think that's a really like interesting, like age-old question.
Mm.
Um, so I like her because she's not afraid to be vicious, and she's not afraid to get into a scrap. But
Yeah.
it's still finding those lines for between good and bad, and like who she trusts. And I think she's a very pure friendship with Frenchie. And
Yes.
I I I love that he's just very caring. You know what I mean? Like he's looked after her, not in a weird, creepy. pursuing a relationship kind of way, even though they have touched on that. Um,
No, it has been.
it's been very pure to watch, which in
Yeah,
a show like The Boys is really appreciated every now
yeah.
and again.
In a show that is not afraid to touch on, grimy and less than savory the topics. It's nice to kind of see that little bit of pure innocence there, where he's not he Frenchie doesn't seem to be like in it for that. He actually just is like, this person's hurt, I want to help them.
Yeah,
And
and I like Frenchie because I think he's interesting, because I think he's been trapped in the underworld so long he doesn't really know another way to function. I think he's just used to, like kind of being like underhanded and a little bit of a criminal, and then obviously she's bringing out this like caring side to him again, because obviously they have touched on his backstory as well, where he's lost people, where it's like this is like his redemption. He's like, well, here's someone I can look after.
yeah.
So like still not afraid to get his hands dirty by being involved with the boys, but he has this other like really just nice likable side as well.
I mean, I completely agree, and it's it's been interesting to watch. Now, for I think, well, we've nearly touched on everybody, bar one huge one, and that is Stormfront. Um, Now, Stormfront in the comics was originally male,
Mm.
so it's kind of been transplanted. That I really like the way it's gone in the TV show. Um, I mean, how she starts off in season 2, you just think, oh, or at least I did, that she's badass. She's one of these. She's not afraid to speak her mind. She'll stand up. Where maybe the Maeve is disillusioned and kind of broken, by all that, so she doesn't really argue anymore. Starlight is still kind of innocent and whatnot, but Stormfront is speaking up, and she'll stand up and she'll say what she wants to say, um, and then, of course, you find out she's a literal Nazi. So, so, which, I mean, twists. Jesus Christ. I think the first real example you get, or again, for me, was with Kimiko's brother, and that whole scene where they're chasing him through the kind of apartment blocks, and you suddenly realize, shit, she's killing families and stuff without a
Mm-hmm.
second thought. And then she very gruesomely kills him and says that she wants him to open his eyes because she likes to watch the light go out.
Yeah,
Um,
with a few racist slurs thrown in for
oh,
good
of
measure as
course,
well.
yeah, a few racist slurs just for good measure. And you're just like, wow, that took a twist. So Stormfront, what are your thoughts?
Like, I think it's amazing they managed to craft a character that almost makes you pity Homelander.
I
That's
know, I
how
know.
deep the character is. And again, like, I love The Boys because it draws parallels to real life. Another one of my like things that I am super nerdy about is World War II history. Um, and like her story is a direct parallel for how Hitler got in power. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, they gained the people's trust through speaking. You know what I mean?
yeah.
She's just doing it in the modern way of social media.
Being charismatic and telling the
Because
people what they wanted to hear.
in hindsight, like people would be like, I just don't understand how someone like Hitler got into power. He's such a bad man. And then you see a story like that, and you're like, well, that's how, because because they took an issue, they gained the people's trust, and they were able to use that to keep the badness hidden or to just gloss over it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's what that storyline illustrates so well. It's like it just shows you the danger of people like that, because there's a particular cold open in season 2 where the shopkeeper was watching Stormfront speak. Oh
yeah,
no, sorry, he was a shop. He was in the shop and he shot the shopkeeper because he was just so caught up in what she was saying that he created this whole narrative in his head. And it's just, that's a very extreme example, but like you can see it, you can see the thought process, and it was very chilling, to be honest, her entire storyline, and
yeah.
that actress is amazing. Like, she deserves just unbelievable credit for how she played that.
I mean, like she, I couldn't agree more. Like she, Aya Cash. Um, I mean, Jesus Christ, she hits this. What would you say? As I just said at the start, she hits this kind of badass girl power kind of thing, but
Mm,
then she'll just switch, and it's not like she's over the top evil. No, she's still maintaining her
mm.
calmness, etc., while she murders people and utters, racial slurs, etc. And I mean, yeah, um, shocking. And I don't know if have you read a lot about season 3 upcoming?
I've tried not to. I'm at the stage where I don't watch movie trailers or anything anymore.
Ah,
Um,
clever
yeah,
lady.
because I they give too much away now. So
Oh well, I'll tell you what. Would you like one thing
okay,
about a new character?
okay.
Soldier Boy is coming in.
I think I heard he's playing him. I
Jensen
think.
Ackles,
Yeah, yeah.
from Supernatural,
Yeah.
will be playing the part of Soldier Boy. It's started filming season 3. It started in February.
Mm,
Um, so it you'll be waiting a while. It's not going to be out for a while yet. But Seth Rogen, who is an executive producer on The Boys, confirmed kind of the whole lot. Now I'm not going to go into kind of who will and won't be in it. And to be fair, the existing cast, have kept pretty
mm,
stum about everything too. Um, I suppose to kind of, keep
yeah.
everything hidden as best they can. With it, I mean, is it a show? Is it the type of show, or are you the type of person where season 3 comes out and you're going to have to go back and look at season 1 and 2 again before you watch season 3, or are you going to be able to jump straight in?
See, I do it with some shows. Like the Umbrella Academy
Oh,
before
that
season two.
we're going to do another episode on that, me
Yeah.
and you, Katie. All right?
Yeah, because I've actually read those comics, but like for that, I watched season one again before season two came out, and then as soon as season two finished, I went back and rewatched the both of them again. I watched it all in the space of a week.
Nice.
Game of Thrones. No, see, I binged to watch Game of Thrones until the last season, which I watched on telly, and I cherry picked episodes. So it kind of depends on the show. If it's one that I actually enjoy watching, I don't know. Some shows I just can't watch repeatedly. I don't know what it is. I'll watch them once. I love them, but I can't watch them more than once. I don't know whether this is one of them yet.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. So I thought at this point we might just do a couple of light trivia parts on it. Um, nothing crazy. We're keeping it nice and casual. But for
Yes,
instance,
okay.
did you know Toronto, where a large chunk of the boys is shot, they hate the boys, or at least a chunk of them hate the boys. Um, for instance, like a certain scene filmed there, it caused so much carnage and stuff that some people believed that it cast it in a bad light. So there was protesters actually on the street about the boys. Um, they claimed the scene was familiar to an actual event that happened in 2018 in the area where uh, basically people died. But it took a counselor to come in and basically calm everything down and explain essentially, I suppose, how much money this thing brings into us. Please don't make us stop filming here. um, but yeah, there you go. Starlight's costume designer is a Pixar character. I have not read this before, so I'm now going to read this now. So, um, part of that was the person who designed this new. Oh, fuck off! It's a fan theory. Some fans believe
Oh,
that Edna Mode is the fucking designer of Starlight's. Fuck off!
from the Incredibles, the cartoon character.
Yes. Interesting fact, my ass. You fucking lied to me, you bastards. One that is an interesting fact, though, is, and I have heard this elsewhere, Karen Fukuhara, who plays Kimiko, she did develop her own sign language
Oh,
for season 2 with her brother. She worked actually with a sign language expert to learn actual sign language, but then she kind of added in her own gestures and stuff that essentially she deemed would be more based around her personal experiences, because her character didn't have anybody to teach her this stuff. So it was like almost like a secret language she and her brother had. So
Yeah.
she had in her own things. So I thought that was an interesting take on it as well. So with that, I think because we're ticking on in time now, I was thinking, as we do a lot on this show, that we might hit you with a bit of a quiz, just to see, and see how we do. No, no, Katie, no, she's gone. Touch little bit of technical issues there. Do apologize for anybody watching. You may see some adjustment in the quality. It definitely wasn't because Katie was scared of the quiz. That's not it at all. But we're gonna finish it off now anyway as well. With that quiz, I said, now some of these questions, Katie, are easy, and some of them are just, how would anybody know this? So we'll see how we do this. Now, I will say that to have a bit of mercy on you, they are all multiple choice.
Okay.
So you will have a bit of an easier time in that aspect. So, are you ready for the boys quiz?
As ready as I'll ever be.
I'm going to start off with a horrible question. Horrible in the fact that I don't know how anybody would know the answer to this. How many times did Billy the Butcher say cunt in the first season?
Oh, Jesus. Okay, right.
Was it A6, B12, C19, D25, or E31?
Okay, so we're talking over the whole season.
You're talking 8 episodes.
I'm going to go 6 because I think it's such a big word. It wasn't said as often as we think it was. And I imagine they've some kind of limits on that kind of language, though it is a streaming service. So I could go for 12, but I think it's one or the other. No, we'll go 6. That was my go.
Okay. You are incorrect. It's 19.
19!
Which is just what the hell. Now, here's one for you. Huey is a fan of A, Pearl Jam, B, Bob Dylan, C, Bon Jovi, D, Van Halen, or E, Metallica?
Bob Dylan.
Ooh, Van Halen. He's a fan of James Taylor, Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel, Billy Joel, and Van Halen.
No, Bob Dylan fits with that group better.
I know. Oh, I agree with you, but that's
no one has Van Halen in their top 5. No one.
I don't think even fucking Van Halen have them in their top 5.
I have never met anyone who said, you know, who's one of my favorite bands? Van Halen. They always like hair and like power metal, and then Van Halen is an extension of that. I don't believe that. I'm sorry.
So there you have it. Please address any angry hair metal fan concerns to Katey Harvey. Huey is also seen wearing a what t-shirt? Metallica, Nirvana, Iron Maiden, Pink Floyd, or Shinedown?
Has to be Pink Floyd or Shinedown. I'm going to go Pink Floyd.
It's Nirvana.
No! No, that doesn't fit with his aesthetic at all.
I know. Props department. Having an off day. So these are kind of the tough ones, right? We will be getting easier ones. Don't worry. Mother's Milk's custom ringtone. So you know Mother's Milk. His custom ringtone for Monique is "Angels on My Side." B, "She Wants to Dance with Me." C, "Together Forever." D, "Ride of the Valkyries." Or E, "Never Gonna Give You Up."
I only know 2 of them songs, and one of them because one is Daniel Bryan's entrance music. So I'm just gonna go B because it sounds nice.
It's actually the other one that you knew.
Oh, really?
Never Gonna Give You Up.
Oh,
Yeah.
again, doesn't fit with his aesthetic. It doesn't fit with what I know about him.
The female Kimoki is from A, Malaysia, B, China, C, Korea, D, Japan, or E, Vietnam.
Oh my God.
That's surprisingly difficult. It's one of those
I
ones.
like it. It's Japanese or Vietnamese, I think. Vietnamese fits with the story better because of
the kind of distraught and damaged thing. Yeah. I'm not even sure. To be fair, you've done about as good as me so far. So I haven't gotten any of these right either. So let's be fair here. I'm not going to pretend I'm any better.
I think the actress is Japanese, though. That's what's throwing me off. And her name is very Japanese.
Well, then, her name is Kimiko.
Okay, let's go Japan.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Another one for you. Who has healing powers? A, Huey. B, Black Noir. C, the female. D, the deep. Or E, Frenchie.
Oh my God, that's not who I thought it was. Sorry, who are the names again?
Huey, Black Noir, the female, the deep, or Frenchie. So the female is Kimiko.
Yeah, no, it's the female, isn't it?
Correct. I actually got that one wrong. I said Black Noir, and I don't know why I said Black Noir.
I was thinking Starlight as soon as it was red. I don't know why. I just don't know. I don't know what scene I
think there was a scene with Black Noir, you know, when he's first introduced and he's like after a terrorist or something. He gets like blown up and he sees, but then I remembered his face didn't heal. He's just damaged. So yeah. Who said the quote, "You ever touch me again, I will burn your eyes out"? You understand me? Was it A, Billy, B, Translucent, C, Starlight, D, Huey, or E, Maeve?
It has to be Starlight because she's the only one who could burn someone's eyes out.
Correct. It was said to the deep in season 2, if you ever touch me again, I'll burn your eyes out. Or season 1 even. Jesus Christ. Who did these questions? Fucking hell. Sorry. The only element Homelander can't see through is A, iron, B, cobalt, C, zinc, D, chromium, or E, silver.
Oh, no, I don't know the exact one, but I know the scene it's referring to because it's where they hide Translucent in the bunker so he can't see through
Jesus, you're right.
Yeah, so that's what they said. We're shielded from Homelander here because he can't see through this. I just can't remember what element it was.
Well, it's not silver.
It's not silver, yeah. And what was the other ones?
So there's iron, cobalt, zinc, and chromium. I don't think it's iron either.
I don't know what cobalt and the other one is.
Zinc and chromium.
Oh, zinc is ringing a small bell.
John, it's one of those. I think it's either zinc or chromium. I'm doing this quiz with you just so you know as well. I haven't.
I'm going to go zinc. I don't know. It's ringing a bell with me slightly.
Correct. It is zinc.
Woo!
Woohoo! So, question 9. Queen Maeve is originally from A, America, B, England, C, Ireland, D, Russia, or E, Greece.
Well, she's actually Irish, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's it. Who has his own beer called the Speeding Bullet Ale? Is it Homelander, B, A-Train, C, Black Noir, D, Billy the Butcher, or E, the Deep?
It has to be A-Train.
Correct. These are more along the lines now. Who is the fastest? Is it A, Mother's Milk, B, Black Noir, C, the Homelander, D, A-Train, or E, Frenchie?
I hope it's A-Train or else
it's A-Train.
A big plot point was missed.
Now here's an interesting one. Stormfront is also the name of a what album? A, Alice Cooper, B, Bob Dylan, C, David Bowie, D, Elton John, or E, Billy Joel?
Oh, so there's no Van Halen option here, no?
No, we're saving our Van Halen questions till the end.
Stormfront. I don't think it's Elton John. I don't think it's... Sorry, what was the other options? So I can
Alice Cooper, Bob Dylan, David Bowie, Elton John, and Billy Joel.
Could be Alice Cooper.
Oh, it's Billy Joel.
Oh.
Of course it is. And finally, who is the big guy? Huey, B, Stan Edgar, C, Mother's Milk, D, Translucent, or E, Stormfront?
Well, it's actually Ryback, so that's wrong. It's probably
I'm
Mother's.
trying to keep mentions of Ryback on this show to a minimum.
Usually I do too. That's funny.
I think the general public do that too.
Mother's Milk. He's a big guy.
Stan Edgar.
Oh.
So not too shabby. Not too shabby. Oh, one last question. Sammy Hagar replaced what singer?
Van Halen.
But yeah, there you go. So we've reached it. In closing, if somebody hasn't seen The Boys, right, completely fresh, completely new, how would you sell it to them now? Looking at this show and thinking, I might check it out. What would you say?
I would say it's an alternative take on superheroes that goes, if Marvel goes right, this goes completely left. It's gritty, it's funny, it's action, it's interesting characters, and it's a take on superheroes that we haven't seen before.
Really, really good. And actually, just I know I've kind of been wrapping up for a while now, but I'm just kind of thinking here. Do you have in the show, like, be it season 1 or season 2, do you have a particular kind of moment that stands out as a like a oh fuck, this was amazing, like this was what a moment for whatever reason?
Yeah. Well, we mentioned the girls having a scrap in season 2. I do love that moment. If you want a moment though that I think sums up The Boys as a show, the whale.
Oh God. Jesus. And you know, the thing is, whenever I do a show like this, I go into it with an open mind. And now The Boys was new because our previous guests on the show, with the exception of Andrew Holden and Matt Schuyler, when the likes of Raven, etc., have been on, I haven't seen the shows that they've been talking about. And I've kind of gone and watched afterwards. The Boys is something I have seen. But now after talking to you, I kind of really want to go watch it again now. I honestly do. And I think I might actually from season 1 again, because it's one of those shows, like, it's just, I don't think it gets old. Like, it's just really good.
I do imagine there's more to pick up on and repeated viewings, because one of my friends has recently started watching it, so she'll text me about a particular episode or moment, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know what I mean, like, and it kind of gets you hyped again. So no, I probably will actually rewatch it before season 3 comes out.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. Well, look, I'll do it several times. I have nothing else better to do at the moment. God damn it, stupid fucking COVID. Anyway, right. With that, Katey Harvey, thank you so much for joining me here on this episode of Comics and Beyond. I hope you had a good time. I hope you got to get your boys' knowledge out and have the chats about it. And hopefully you'll come back down the line and we can have a chat about something else. Umbrella Academy. Or something like that.
Look, I would love that. And I've even read the comics, as I said. You don't have to ask me twice for that.
Beautiful. Actually, I haven't read the comics for that one. I've watched the show, but I haven't read the comics yet. I've been meaning to, but yeah, we might do that down the line. And so thank you for your time. And of course, thank you, people watching as well, for joining us here. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did like what you saw, please drop a like, a comment, what you might like to see next, or who you'd like to see on the show next. Subscribe to the Nerds Rush channel as well, where you'll find shows about everything from comics to wrestling and everything in between as well. Again, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you soon. Bye.